Follow directions, so good. Maybe. One summer's day, the rabbits woke up before the sunrise and said their prayers. Oh, look. Do you see them here? See, they have special mats on which they say their prayers. They waited for Farmer Adam to bring their breakfast while they made their beds layer upon layer. Their waiting didn't last long. They saw Farmer Adam approach with a surprise. He was carrying two black rabbits, both with big brown eyes. This is Soot, and this is Jet, said Farmer Adam. They're very friendly and kind twin rabbits. Introduce yourselves and talk to them. Tell them about your games and habits. Jet and Soot greeted them. Assalamu alaikum. I did practice this, but now Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. Snowdrop, the eldest white rabbit, replied, Wa alaikum assalam. I'm probably not saying that right. You can correct me. It's okay if you know.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, wa alaikum assalam. See, I got to practice more. That's okay. And may peace be upon you too. That's a nice thing to say, isn't it? Peace be upon you? Yeah, I love that. Soot and Jet asked politely, may we join you in your games and play? But Snowdrop looked uncertain and said, let me see what Rosie and Bluebell have to say. Oh. Wonder why he didn't just say yes. The white rabbits disappeared under the cherry tree. With a shout, a thump, and stamping feet, Rosie and Bluebell screaming, you see, Soot and Jet are black rabbits. They can't play with us. What? What do you think about that? You think about that. Snowdrop objected. Why are you making all this fuss? The wise Snowdrop said, calm down, sisters. We were all created differently. This is Allah's will. So we may know each other and live in peace. Love is a little thing which we can always fulfill. Oh, does that sound like something that we as Unitarian Universalists might believe? Yeah, we're all created differently, but we can get to know each other and our differences and center ourselves in love. Yeah. So Bluebell and Rosie listened in awe and said, forgiveness from Allah we seek. We will always be kind, never be mad, control our temper, and think. Think before we speak, right? Allah doesn't look at our appearance, white or black, but he looks at our hearts and fairness. It doesn't matter who we are or how we look. What counts is Allah's awareness. Yeah, and there's a little quiz at the end. You want to take the quiz? Yeah, I'll give it to Ms. Melissa, and she can take you out. And what do you think? Oh, there's Jerry. Yeah, you can take the quiz. Well, what did you think? Did you learn a little bit about another faith? Yeah, what'd you learn?
That there's many names for the one that is higher than us.
Yeah, there are many names, and one of them is Allah.
Like, love is a connection.
Love is a connect. Yeah, you are right. Love connects us. Oh, our children are so wise. Thank you. All right, y'all. We're going to sing our song, and you may go out. Are we ready? All right. You ready? Yeah, help me lead it. These hands will do the work. These people carry me. These. These eyes will do what these eyes can see. This mind will stay open to the possibility, and the love in this heart will set me free. All right, that's okay. We're still learning it. We'll get it. We will memorize it. going to ask Vaisal to light our healing candle as I say this prayer for today. Spirit of life and love, we light this candle today as we reflect upon healing relationships through practices of trust rather than practices of fear. There is much work to be done in this world to heal the deep wounds that humanity has inflicted upon itself through ignorance of the other, those who are different from us. Spirit of life and love, heal us through curiosity, humility, and respect. Amen. Our ritual of the sharing of joys, concerns, and sorrows embodies the belief that there is power in weaving our lives together so that we may build a better world together, one that honors the experiences of all of us. In our Joys and Sorrows book, you are able to write any significant joy or sorrow occurring in your life that you would like for the congregation to know. And today, we have many joys today. Crystal writes, thank you to Ken and Dorothy for sharing time, knowledge, and delicious food at Circle B. Delicious and nutritious food at Circle B. And thank you to Heather, that's me, welcome Crystal, for sharing time, knowledge, and building beloved community. Loved seeing the birds, turtles, gators, and beautiful wildlife. Indeed, it was a lovely time. And Vaisal writes, our Circle B Bar Reserve Bird Watch hike was very fun. We saw baby owls, and Jackie took great photos of them. Indeed, she did, and I think that Dorothy put them on her Facebook group, plus more. We enjoyed it very much. Thank you, Dorothy, Heather, and Ken. Food was yummy, too. Tom Morse writes, happy birthday today to the love of my life, Nancy. Oh, yay. There she is. Happy birthday, Nancy. And Shelby shares a joy, a much-needed spring break for educators. Yes, indeed. And also a sorrow that her mom's Alzheimer's health is worsening. I'm sorry to hear that, Shelby. Hugs to all of you, and know that we are thinking about you and we're here for you. And so I invite you now to come forward for our ritual of joys and sorrows. You may take whichever stone or stones feels right to you and drop it in the bowl, connecting to others, feeling the power of being together in this community. today, Sal will put stones in for those folks who are joining us online. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Especially for Joshua, who's in the hospital, and people are there.
Especially for Joshua, who's in the hospital, and Petra, who went to go be with him. Thank you.
Okay, it's time for sharing of abundance. Here we gather, tucked back in this friendly neighborhood between these beautiful tall pines. We are a community of people who have arrived from many different paths, yet we seek a common goal, to bring more love to a hurting but beautiful world. As Unitarian Universalists, we aspire to reach this goal through our shared values, one of which is value of generosity. This week, as we hope you read in the newsletter, we are taking up a special collection for Children's Home Society so that we may support one of our identified social justice passions, to support foster families. Adam?
Unfortunately, Nikki and Kristen were not able to be here, but they're spearheading this, and they asked me to read this short message. Children's Home Society is a case management organization in Lakeland. They employ the social workers that support families on their path to reunification or adoption. The case managers are the ones who are checking up on children in their foster homes, taking them to medical appointments if the foster parent can't, getting parents referrals to counseling services, doing home studies, supervising visits, and more. The case managers are often responsible for making sure kids get what they need, even when there are very little financial resources from the state of Florida. So donations of practical items like diapers, wipes, school supplies, etc. go a long way. Financial donations, of course, make a huge difference in the day-to-day lives of these children facing so much uncertainty, and any amount helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Now the ushers will pass the plate. Please give generously. And the sacred noodling.
Thank you all for your gifts. What do we tend to do as Unitarian Universalists when we bump up against a theology that we are either not familiar with or that we don't agree with? Do we argue with it, write it off, laugh about it? But what about the people that embrace that theology? How are we in relationship with them? And how do our responses help to shape the world? Are we adding to the love and respect or to the animosity? I grew up in a liberal Christian home. We were not taught that our religion was the only one way. And this perception provided me and my siblings with enough curiosity to learn about different religions and spiritualities and to nurture relationships with people from other faiths. My sister met a Muslim man while she was in college in Arizona. They fell in love, married, moved to Qatar, and have raised their 6 children in the Muslim faith. Fast forward 26 years, and as I was gathered around my dying brother's bedside with my family, including my sister and her 21-year-old son, Adam, I became acutely aware of the spiritual diversity just in my own family. To be honest, none of us were entirely sure what my brother's spiritual beliefs were, but we all had our own beliefs that were pulling us through that very difficult moment. And for my sister and her son, that included praying over our brother until his passing was complete. My sister has said to me since, all I know is that Adam's prayer gave him, our brother, peace in his last moments of life. Something in those words was what he needed to pass peacefully to the next life. My nephew had been reciting the prayer in Arabic, and his offering did indeed provide a balm for our breaking hearts. But of course, we were unaware of what he was praying about, and so I asked for a translation. And this is the prayer in English. O Allah, forgive him and have mercy on him. Grant him ease and respite. Make his resting place a noble one and facilitate his entry. Wash him with the most pure and clean water, snow and hail. Purify him from sins as a white garment is cleansed of dirt. Give him in exchange a home better than his home on earth, and a family better than his family. Grant him entrance to paradise and protect him from the trials of the grave and the torture of hellfire. As a Unitarian Universalist, and I stress the Universalist part, I don't worry about my brother's soul having to endure the tortures of hellfire. He endured enough of that here in his life on this earth. I find solace in the fact that he is no longer suffering. But my disagreement with their theology is not really the point. My point is, over the past 26 years, I have had to become curious about something that I knew nothing about, something that the American media and the US government wanted me to fear. But the more I learned about Islam from my sister, the less I feared, and the less I worried about my sister's well-being as a woman in a Muslim country and the upbringing of her children. As my brother passed, we all needed one another. We still need one another. And so it's vitally important that we don't become so stubborn about what we believe and what we don't believe that we argue about it. Our relationships need to be built with the practice of trust. And that includes trusting one another with our deeply held spiritual beliefs. My sister and I know that we don't agree with one another about theology, but our relationship as sisters takes precedence over our disagreements. We agree to continue the conversation, to learn from one another, to celebrate our commonalities, and to not use our disagreements or our beliefs to harm one another. As a UU, I covenant not just with all of you in this room, but with my family and with the rest of the world to uphold our shared value of pluralism, which states, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. And so with that, I ask that we join in this hymn together. It was written and inspired by a Muslim residing in the United States, Samir Badri. Samir recruited the composer, Ted Warmbrand, a Jew, to set his words to a tune after they both were featured at a peace rally in Arizona before the US bombing of Afghanistan and then Iraq. This is number 1032 in the Teal hymnal. It's called Dauna Naish. And you may rise in body or spirit now and sing it with us.
Salam,
Some of you may already know, I was born and raised as a Muslim in Istanbul, Turkey. My parents were secular progressive Muslims, and they did not follow a religious lifestyle like the most of my relatives living back in their Providence, Kahramanmaraş. Kahramanmaraş is the city where there was a major earthquake a few years back. And it was very easy for me to see the difference when we visited my grandparents during the summers until I was like 14, 15. Both my mother and father were from Maraş, so going there every summer, which was like at least 36 hours train trip or 24-hour bus ride, back in 1980s was a routine. Most of my friends whose families moved to Istanbul from different parts of Anatolia would go to their parents' hometown too. There were times it was hard to find kids to play on the street because everyone was gone. I still remember the small makeshift mosque a few blocks away where I lived. I call it makeshift because it was actually an apartment building which its basement floor was turned into a masjid or mosque, in English we call, a place to gather for prayers and to study Quran. And they put a loudspeaker on the roof of that six-story building, like a minaret of a real mosque, and called it a mosque. So basically, it did not look like a traditional mosque. So I remember going there with my friends from the street on some of the afternoons, maybe the weekends, to learn how to read Quran in Arabic and recite it. I recall memorizing the Arabic alphabet, trying to learn to read it, but I wasn't able to do it. In Turkish, we use the Latin alphabet, A, B, C, and it displayed their Arabic letters are different. I remember the like Elif, B, T, C, Jim, Ha, H, Dal, Zat, Re. I memorized it, but I wouldn't recognize the symbols, which one is Elif, which one is B, but I think I was 6, 7. So it is still in my memory. So I stopped going after a while, and I think I was going because I wanted to be my friends who were required to go there. Their parents, asked them to go and learn, so they would go, so I joined them, I would go with them. My parents did not ask me or force me to go, so I was able to stop. But, my friends, they had to continue. One of my favorite memories is my grandmother, my mom's mom, making me lie in her lap and praying for me while rubbing my hair gently with one hand and then pulling the rosary beads with her other hand. Her voice was so calming that it wouldn't take me long to fall asleep. I think I was 7 or 8 years old then. My memories of her cooking in the kitchen, praying 5 times a day, and telling us stories about the community and being good to each other. She loved us all. She loved us so much, her grandkids, and very dearly. Rest in peace, Grandma Hatice. I love you very much, and I miss you dearly. Now it is my privilege to welcome and introduce our guest from the Council of American Islamic Relations, CARE, Florida representatives Alicia and Terry. CARE is the Council on American Islamic Relations is a federation of legally independent, governed and managed chapters across the country that work together to defend the civil liberties of Americans. CARE National is the founding organization and has its own board of directors, as do each of the chapters across the country. All the CARE chapters board members, employees, and volunteers represent the diversity of American Muslim community. The vast majority of CARE Florida's work deals with civil rights and anti-defamation. CARE Florida has constantly won praise from elected officials and the media for its tenacious efforts to combat both discrimination against Muslims and Islamophobia. I can go on more, but I would like to invite them to see again Alicia and Terry as the representatives of CARE for their presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us out for your Sunday service. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share a little bit about the Islamic faith. We'll go over quite a bit of things that we'll see that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all share together. So again, the organization that we work for is a civil rights organization. It's the Council on American Islamic Relations. Primary focus is to protect the civil rights of the entire community. Mostly the vast majority of the people that come to the organization are of the Muslim faith, but if there is anybody that is experiencing any kind of discrimination, if they have issues with their immigration status or their asylum status. These are all things that we can assist with as an organization. So it's not just for the Muslim community. So myself and Terry, we are based out of the Central Florida area. We work remotely, but we do have an office in Tampa and an office in South Florida. Both have a number of different, a handful of attorneys that are working, and we do offer all of the services at no cost to the community. So here, so most Americans, what they don't know about Muslims, unfortunately, what's being portrayed in the media, 90% of the media they present them in a negative fashion. That is actually how I came to be with my studies. Several years after the 9/11 attacks, I felt like I wasn't getting the appropriate information, or there were things that were missing. So I started doing research on my own and going to local mosques in the Orlando area to learn more about the religion, because I myself was not aware of a lot of the basic things that our religions actually share. One of the most important misconceptions is about women and their rights. If you see a woman that's covering with what they call a hijab, a lot of people automatically think that this is an oppressive thing, and this is something that is put upon them by either their father or their husband, but it's just a matter of being modest. And it is the choice of the woman as to whether she wants to wear the hijab or not. It has nothing to do with the decisions of any male family member. It is up to the woman whether she wants to do that or not. Also, the word jihad, I feel like that word has been basically hijacked by the Western media. Jihad means, it's the Arabic translation, it just means struggle. So it could be, you could be using the word in the form of a grander struggle, like an armed conflict, but it's also, you could use it as a personal struggle also. So going back to women and wanting to wear the hijab, they may, especially being here in the United States, it may be a struggle for them because, unfortunately, especially with this new administration, it kind of makes them a target, unfortunately, because it's much more easy to identify them as Muslim due to the fact that they're wearing the hijab. So the word jihad, it doesn't have, it's not the holy war that we're made to believe. It simply just means struggle, and it's used through the Arabic nations. And just as like I said, just as a basic common word, it's not what we're taught to believe here. So you can, next slide. So a little bit of background for the religion of Islam. So a lot of people don't know that many of the Bible stories that we grew up with and the prophets that we know in Christianity, these are all part of the Islamic faith as well. So the birthplace of Islam is in Mecca, which is now Saudi Arabia, which is in the Middle East. That was the last messenger was Muhammad, and the Islamic faith looks at all of our prophets from Adam to Noah to Moses, even to Jesus, as they're all messengers of God. The one primary difference is that Muslims do not think that Jesus is divine, whereas in Christianity there's the Trinity. We believe that he is the Son of God. This is not the case in Islam, but he is still a very, very important person within the faith. In fact, Jesus is actually mentioned in the Quran, which is their holy text, more than the Prophet Muhammad, and Muhammad was the last messenger. So the Quran, as I said, is the holy book of the Muslims. So it's the equivalent of the Bible or the Torah for the Jews. So how that came to be is the angel Gabriel, same angel Gabriel from the Christian stories that you may be familiar with. He brought down the word of God to Muhammad in the course of 23 years, and that was the entire Quran was put together with these verses that came from the angel Gabriel. The Quran is broken down into 114 surahs or chapters. And a lot of the stories that are in the Quran, you'll find them that are very similar to the Bible stories. They have the creation story. Muslims believe in Adam and Eve, Noah and the Ark. These are all very familiar stories for Muslims as well. So these are pictures of some American Muslims. You can see some celebrities there, some athletes. Muslims come from all over the place. A lot of people have this misconception that all Muslims are Arab and all Muslims come from the Middle East, and that's not the case. Go ahead to the next slide. So the religion of Islam has more than 2 billion worshipers across the globe. Does it say here? Where do you think the most populated country has the most Muslims? Indonesia. Yes, yeah. A lot of people would not think that. That's in Southeast Asia. Like I said, a lot of people think when they hear Muslim, they think the Middle East, maybe North Africa. They think of them as being Arab, but there's actually the Muslim population is a very diverse population. The religion spread very far and wide across North Africa and even in sub-Saharan Africa, and far into the Asian countries. And a lot of people don't know that Islam came to the United States before the United States was actually a country, because with the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of the slaves were coming from West Africa, and those Western African countries had a large Muslim population. So Islam has been in the United States, or it has been in America longer than the United States has been an independent country. So this just gives you a little bit of an idea of where the most populated countries are with Muslims. I don't know if you can see it, but Indonesia, yes, is the first one. After that is Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nigeria, and then Egypt. So that's the first real Arab country that we see after the other ones that are listed. Let's go ahead with the next slide. You can go to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of the Muslim population here in the United States. So we hear about, the Muslims are coming over, they're trying to take over. That is not the case. The Muslims that are coming here, they are looking for a better life, just as, Europeans do, or people coming from South America. But the populations of the Muslims here in the United States, it's progressively grown over the past couple of years. But you see, with the population of over 350 million people here in the United States, in 2007, the Muslim population only made up of 3.45 of the overall population here in the United States. So this shows you a little bit about the demographics here in the state of Florida. So in Florida, the Muslim population is less than 1%. There are communities that have more Muslims than others. There's a large population of Muslims in the Tampa area, in South Florida, and in the Orlando area. There's about 12 to 13 different mosques that serve the Muslim community. Again, a lot of people don't realize that that Muslims come from all over the place. Muslims are not just Arab. Here in America, the Muslim population, 25% are black, and another 25% are white, and only 18% of the the Muslims here in the United States are Arab, and 18 are from the Asian countries. And within the Hispanic and black communities, those populations are rapidly growing. And again, you can see that not all Muslims are Arabs and not all Arabs are Muslim. You can travel through some of the what we think of as Arab nations like Lebanon, Palestine, Syria. Those are Arabs that live in that in those parts of the world, but there are large Christian communities that live in those countries as well. So it's not all Muslims that are living in that area. So to talk specifically about the religion, there are 5 pillars of Islam. The first one is the Shahada. So that is just proclaiming your faith. So if you want to become a Muslim, all you have to do is, with a witness, recite the fact that there is only one God, and that is God. And as with the story that Heather was sharing earlier, when you hear the word Allah, that's just the Arabic word for God. It's not a different deity. That is just how Arabs say the word God. So Christian Arabs will use the same word when referring to God. So for the Shahada, it's just you saying that there is no other God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. And that is basically the first step in becoming a Muslim. There's no classes or no baptism or anything like that. You just have a Muslim witness, and that you speak that phrase, and then from there they will welcome you open arms and teach you about the faith and other things. So another thing is salah, or their prayer. So Muslims pray every day 5 times a day. It's based on the sun. So for each day and within the seasons, it changes all of the time. So they have a prayer before sunrise, then like a midday prayer around 12 or 1 o'clock, then an afternoon prayer, a prayer before sunrise, and then there's another one at the end of the day. So that's basically the time for worship. Muslims will pray outside of that. They'll call it dua. And that's just praying for like something that you may want. You know, if you have a family member that's sick, or you know, if you're looking to make a big family move or something like that, you know, you're just asking for God's guidance on that. But the 5 obligatory prayers, those happen every day during those set times. And it is obligatory for every Muslim to do that every single day, 5 times a day. Another one of the 5 pillars is zakat. That is charity. So what that is that is the obligation of the Muslims to give to those in the community that are in need. It's a little bit different than in Christianity. I know with some Christian faiths, the obligation is 10% of your income, but within Islam, it's 2.5% of what you have left over. So if you yourself don't have a lot to give, there's not this obligation that you have to give to somebody else. What they usually will do is they will, give to the local mosque or masjid in the area, and then the masjid or mosque will distribute based on the needs of the community. But like I said, it's only 2.5% of what you have left over after, you know, your expenses are paid. And the last of the 5 pillars is Hajj. So that is the pilgrimage to Mecca. Mecca is the birthplace of Islam. So every Muslim is required, if they can financially, to at least go to Mecca and do Hajj at least one time in their life. If you are not financially able to do that, there's no punishment for that, but the idea is for everybody that is Muslim to try at least once to make it to Hajj. You can also do Hajj on behalf of someone else. So if you have maybe an elderly parent that can't travel, but you're healthy and you have the financial means to do it, after you do Hajj for yourself, you could go a second time and do Hajj on behalf of your parent. So they would get the same reward as if they were going to Hajj. Go ahead to the next slide. So what is Islam? Again, like I said, it is quite similar. There's many similarities between Judaism and Christianity and Islam. It's the world's 2nd largest religion, second to Christianity. The word Islam means to submit, and it's derived from the Arabic word for peace. Some of the primary teachings are to cultivate moral values, to be better for oneself and the world, the restoration of global values that promote life, liberty, equality, and social justice, moderation in all aspects of life, and treat your elderly well and give them the respect that they deserve. So a lot of these things are found in many other religions as well. These are just basic ways to just be kind and decent to each other that go across religious lines. So these are some common phrases. Again, like I said, the word Allah is just God in Arabic. Allahu Akbar is God is great. You'll hear Christian Muslims use this phrase as well. Assalamu alaikum, that's peace be upon you. This is a greeting that Muslims use to greet each other. And the response, so if someone says assalamu alaikum to you, you say wa alaikum salam back. So it's peace be upon you, and you're wishing the same to them. The word sunnah, this is the practices of the Prophet Muhammad. So the Muslims follow their holy text, which, like I said before, is the Quran. But there's a lot of things that are not in the Quran, but there are things that the Prophet did that Muslims will follow. For instance, you may have encountered Muslims in your community. Most of the men wear beards. The reason they do that is because the Prophet Muhammad, he wore a beard. So to be in line a little bit closer to the faith, they follow the traditions that the Prophet did, and having the beard is one of those things. Again, the Quran, that is the Islamic holy book. Masjid, that's just another word for mosque or their place of worship. Inshallah, if a Muslim is telling you, I want to do this, or I'm going to go here, they may end that statement with inshallah. That just means, we'll do this if God wills it to happen. And Bismillah is in the name of God. So a lot of Muslims, before they eat or before they start traveling or something like that, they'll use that phrase, just giving praise to God. Go ahead with the next one. So this again, it talks about the 5 daily prayers. The first one, Fajr, is before sunrise. Dhuhr is midday, like I said, about 1 o'clock. Asr is the afternoon prayer. Maghrib is evening before the sun sets, and Isha is after the sun sets. So, like I said, these go by the positioning of the sun. So many Muslims will have, maybe in their home, they'll have like a digital clock that changes with the date. So the times for their prayers will change along with that. So they're not constantly, looking online. And before every prayer, they will do a purification. So because they look at that as an opportunity where they're going to have to be speaking directly to God. There's in a lot of the Christian faiths, there is the we speak to God through Jesus. There's no middleman in Islam. When you go to pray, you're praying directly to God. So what they do is this purification, this traditional wash. It's called wudu. So they'll wash their hands, their face, their feet. So every time they have the opportunity to speak in front of God or to pray in front of God, they're clean. Go ahead to the next slide. So Jummah, that is the equivalent of a Sunday service. So on Friday afternoons is their primary day of service. So that takes place during the afternoon service, the midday service. So it's every Friday afternoon, and you can see this photo here is in Jerusalem outside of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. This location here, like I said, in Jerusalem, is the 3rd holiest place to Muslims after Mecca and Medina, which are both in Saudi Arabia. So right now we are in the middle of the holy month of Ramadan. So during the month of Ramadan, Muslims will be fasting. And what that means, I know with some Christians, they'll give up something for fasting, but it's different with the Muslims. So what they'll do is from sunup to sundown, they will consume no food or no water for the entire day. And no sinning, but I mean, we shouldn't be doing that anyway, so. So usually what they'll do is they'll get up before that Fajr prayer, that first prayer in the morning, and have a good hefty breakfast to hopefully carry them through the day. The first part of Ramadan was a little bit easier because the days were shorter, but now we've moved into daylight savings, so the days are a little bit longer. But they do from sunup to sundown. They'll be fasting the entire day, and usually at the end of the day, what a lot of Muslims will do is they will go to a local mosque or masjid to break their fast. And they'll have dinner with their community. So they usually break their fast with a date and some water. And then they'll have, a lot of times they'll have a community meal. It's to my understanding that in some Muslim countries, people will do that breaking fast at home. But here, because the Muslim population is kind of scattered around, it's more common for Muslims here in the United States to come to the masjids every night and break fast with the community, because they don't have that whole sense of community. Whereas, if they're coming from a country like Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Lebanon, where the whole community is, or the vast majority of the community is Muslim, so they come together here in the United States to do that. So it sounds like it's a difficult month, but a lot of Muslims that I know and that I've worked with, they actually they look forward to Ramadan. That's a very important month for them. That's an opportunity, for reflection and to kind of get a fresh start. So that's actually happening right now. They go by a lunar calendar, so we're about halfway through Ramadan today. And at the end of Ramadan, they will be celebrating, they have a holiday, it's called Eid. So again, the community comes together at the end of Ramadan as just an opportunity for worship and prayer and to end the month. So you might have heard about some dietary restrictions that Muslims have. Muslims do not consume any pork or pork products and no alcohol. They don't necessarily have a vegetarian diet. You may have heard the word halal. So this is similar to things being kosher. So halal is a particular way that the animal is slaughtered. So it is slaughtered in the most humane way that they can be, but also with a prayer. Things that are forbidden, they are called haram. These again are pork products and animal byproducts that have come from pigs. They don't drink alcohol or take any type of intoxicants or like cigarettes or anything like that. And they stay away from foods that may be cross-contaminated with pork products. So again, like I mentioned, we're in the holy month of Ramadan. At the end of Ramadan is one of two holidays. Eid al-Fitr is the last day of Ramadan, and that again is when the community comes together. And then two months and 10 days after Ramadan is Eid al-Ha. And that's just another holiday where the community is coming together. And then Hajj, we mentioned that before. That comes at a certain time of the year, not necessarily much of a holiday, but it is there is a certain time of year when Muslims will go to Hajj. They'll go, and Saudi Arabia will take in millions of Muslims from all over the world, and they're doing this together. They come together. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but they come in very basic clothes to show the equality amongst people, that no one is better than anyone else. They're coming together in an equal space. You can do Hajj throughout different times of the year. It's called Umrah, but it's more important to do your Hajj during the month of Hajj. There's a month that is designated for Hajj. Go ahead to the next slide. So when you're encountering a Muslim, we talked about the women wearing hijab. This is not necessarily anything unique to the Muslim population. There are other faiths. There are Orthodox Jews that the women they won't necessarily wear scarves, but they'll wear wigs. Again, they're only showing their hair to their husbands. It's just another form of modesty. And also the men are supposed to dress in a modest fashion as well. They're not supposed to be wearing like short sleeve shirts or short shorts or anything like that. So it's not just something that's obligatory to the women, it's just we can see it more with the women because of the fact that they're wearing a hijab. Also, there is very little interaction between men and women as far as like physical interaction. If you are not with, if you're not among family members, men and women typically will not hug or shake hands. This is, again, part of being modest. Also, if somebody is speaking to you and they're Muslim, if they're looking down, that's just them showing their modesty. It's not, I know that here in the United States, we're taught, look, you're talking to somebody, look them in the eye to show that you're engaging with them. But with a Muslim, if a man and a woman are speaking to each other, they may not be making eye contact. It's not anything that has to do with being disrespectful or anything like that. It's just about being modest. Okay, so you can go ahead and we talked about the hijab and modesty in clothing. You can go to the next slide. So this shows a couple of different types of hijab. The one on the far end there, that is a typical hijab. That's how we see most women wearing it. But based on cultural things, women maybe wear them a little differently. So the idea is to cover your body and to cover your hair. It's not obligatory to cover your entire face, but in some cultures, women will do that. There's actually some women here in the United States that will wear the niqab. That's the second woman from the end there. So with this, only her eyes are showing. The burqa is in the middle there. That's more of a cultural thing that we'll find in the country of like Afghanistan. The women will wear a full dress, and then on top of that, they'll wear the burqa, which completely covers their face. The chador is, we see that in countries like Iran. And the other one on closer to me, that one is just another way to wear just the hijab where your face is showing, where that is prevalent in several different countries, and people here in the United States wear that as well. But instead of like a scarf, it's a fitting that goes over your face and also covers your shoulders and comes about like halfway down your abdomen. So as I had mentioned before, the word Allah, it's just the Arabic word for God. A lot of the Bible stories, you'll find them in the Quran, and again, along with the prophets. All of the prophets that we know as Christians, the Muslims respect all of those prophets as well. The only addition is the Prophet Muhammad. And that said, and he is said to be the last prophet. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so so does anybody have any questions?
I think what we'll do is we'll close the service, and those who want to stay for questions.
Oh, okay.
Stay.
So yeah, I know that was a lot of information. Oh, and then, yes, and then Terry would like to, I want to introduce my friend Terry and colleague. She is going to discuss the advocacy hubs. That is something, that's an initiative that CARE has recently put together. She works on the policy side of our organization.
Yes, thank you so much for having us here today. And I just wanted to say that I how I came to be involved with CARE Florida is I'm a recent addition since last January, and I was very concerned about when I saw misrepresentations of Islam and what I would call Islamophobic things being spread, not just by right-wingers that do this for any group that's not them, but even among people that are normally open, tolerant, liberal, or whatever. With most groups, they were putting very hateful and false things on social media. And so my social media was kind of the opposite for the most part, because I started to fear, because I have long worked for justice, and I've looked for like root causes of wars and conflicts and things like that. And I see how powerful people that are very powerful economically and politically have often utilized various divisions, religious, racial, etc., to pit people against each other. And there are reasons why that in doing that, they maintain their extremely high economic and political advantages and privileges. So I became very concerned that this, okay, in World War II, it was mostly done with Jewish people, although there were other groups too that were persecuted. But I feel like now we face a situation where it will be done more so on the basis of anti-Islam, and that will be used to justify any type of violence or any type of war anywhere, okay? So a board member of the organization happened to notice my social media, and she actually asked me to apply. She said that, Council on American Islamic Relations is hiring. So my position is called Policy and Advocacy Coordinator. So that is what I'm trying to do, is to organize people, not only Muslims, but people that are not anti-Muslim, that want to oppose Islamophobia, and that also want to stand for all the positive values of that. The imam who runs CARE Florida, he has said all the issues that are about justice and human rights and peace and health care for all and anything like that, he considers that is a Muslim issue. It's something that Muslims support, and he wants us to build coalitions and relationships with people around all those things. So I just want to go over just a few things that are back on the table for you to look at and explain them. This is about, our organization has provided over $5 million a year in free legal services. And this explains some of the things that we do as far as supporting people against religious discrimination and harassment, et cetera, employment discrimination. We work with prisoners in the correctional institutes in Florida. And so this tells is like a summary of what we've done over the past year. I mentioned that we will be working to affect legislation, trying to educate our elected officials. If they refuse to be educated, then we will be educating the public about that, and we will be trying to find better people to replace them. So this is called our Muslim Day at the Capitol, which is Tallahassee. It will be April 8th, but it's not just for Muslims, it's for anybody that wants to support this effort. So that's what this is. We have a couple actions that we would like everybody to follow us on social media if possible. CAIRFL is normally on most of the social media. Our website is careflorida.org. And we often have actions on there. So this is one major one that we're doing right now. We're trying to get a Heritage Month, Muslim American Heritage Month resolution passed in the Florida legislature. And we do have Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith has introduced it. And we have a co-sponsor, I think Angie Nixon, Representative Nixon in the House. So this is something, if possible, we would like everyone to do, either use the QR code or the bit.ly link there. And this one is, we want to file hate crime charges against a radiologist. He saw a Palestinian flag in a vehicle, nobody around, and he scratched the vehicle all up and drew with his either, I don't know if it was a knife or a key, drew an Israeli flag and a Star of David on the vehicle. He was charged with criminal mischief, but we think it should be upgraded too as a hate charge because it was obviously done because the person supported Palestinians. And I think everybody heard about in Miami Beach where a man got upset. He thought he saw two Palestinians and he shot 17 times and he told the cops he killed two Palestinians. And it turns out they were two Israeli tourists that he actually shot at, and he didn't kill them. And then they took to social media and said that this was an anti-Semitic crime, and they said, it said death to the Arabs. Okay, so that's how convoluted things get, at least here in Florida. So this is the last thing I wanted to mention to you. This is what we're talking about, what Alicia meant, the advocacy hubs. Our goal is to have a team in every U.S. congressional district in Florida by the end of the year, and then expand it later to state house congressional districts, which there's more of. There's 28 U.S. congressional districts in Florida. This one, I think, is 11, Daniel Webster. So we want to have a team in each district that will do various things as far as anytime there's a public discussion about anything, we want there to be Muslim representation or people that are not Islamophobic that want to be at that discussion. We also want the teams to meet with all their elected officials and try to educate them, as we said, about all the issues. And as I mentioned, have coalitions with all the organizations that are working for human rights and equality and justice and peace. So I would urge anybody that's interested to take a look at this and also scan the QR code to express your interest. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming today and joining us and helping us to practice trust by building our knowledge with something that we don't know much about. I reached out to my sister and asked her for some appropriate closing words, and she pointed me to the Surah Ikhlas, which the surah is a chapter in the Quran, and it's a very, very brief chapter, but a very deeply meaningful one and the cornerstone of their faith. Because it expresses the belief in a singular, unparalleled creator who governs the universe. I'm going to just ask Crystal to play the video with the prayer real quick. Like I said, it's very brief, but you can hear it in Arabic.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
In Unitarian Universalism, we recognize the oneness of all creation, the interdependent web of all beingness. Our understanding is that just as we came from this earth and ultimately this universe, we shall return to it. And so we should live in a way that honors it, for we are dependent upon the earth for our well-being, and it is dependent upon us to care for it and all beings that walk upon it. So let us sing and celebrate our differences and our commonalities with our closing hymn. In our gray hymnal, it's number 180, despite what your order of service says. It's 180 in the gray hymnal, except for I don't think you actually need it because it's one word. Alhamdulillah. Are we ready?
Thank you. Heather, would you please help us extinguish our chalice while we read our chalice extinguishing words? We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.
You may go out into the world now, or you may stay and ask questions. Remember to build trust by learning and by being curious. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and
You are a blessing.